The instant every screen in your house snaps to black, the hum of the fridge dies, and your phone shows zero service, you'll have about 60 seconds to admit the grid is gone, maybe for months, and decide whether you're a spectator or a survivor. Right now, Washington's attention is pulled in two dangerous directions at once. In the Gulf, U.S. intelligence just confirmed that Iran quietly loaded naval mines onto fast boats, an unmistakable signal that Tehran is prepared to choke the Strait of Hormuz if Israel's latest covert strikes continue, a move that would sever a fifth of global oil overnight. 6,000 miles north, Russian forces are grinding forward around Seversk after launching fresh summer assaults, while Kyiv pleads for air defense reloads the Pentagon can't spare. At home, the Department of Energy had to invoke emergency powers last week just to keep the southeast grid from collapsing under a record heat dome, proof that even without foreign enemies, our power infrastructure is running on the edge. Layer on a new DHS bulletin warning that an electromagnetic pulse, whether from a high-altitude weapon or an extreme solar storm, could fry untold miles of transmission line before operators have time to blink, and the takeaway is brutal. The cavalry might be busy elsewhere when the lights go out here. In tonight's briefing, we're tackling the scenario most politicians hate to discuss out loud, an EMP event that shutters every switch, substation, and cell tower for an entire continent. This isn't science fiction. Congress has held 3 hearings in the past 18 months on exactly how unprotected civilian infrastructure still is. An EMP doesn't leave rubble the way a bomb does, but the aftermath can be just as deadly because modern life is an IV drip of electricity we barely notice until it's yanked away. The goal of this episode is simple: show you how an ordinary household can stay alive and sane for months without the grid by adopting a calm, systematic mindset, no doomsday theatrics, just disciplined readiness. The instant everything goes dark, no hum from the fridge, no streetlights flickering, just an eerie silence, the countdown starts. This isn't just a blackout. This is the moment you realize you're in a different world now, and your next decisions will shape how well you navigate it. Vehicles made after 1985, laced with delicate electronics, are likely dead on the road, their ECUs fried beyond field repair. Traffic will freeze in place, intersections becoming traps of confusion and stalled metal. If you're behind the wheel, don't wait. Coast to a safe spot, engage the parking brake and leave a visible note if necessary, but don't waste time staring at the dash. Grab your get-home bag and move quickly, calmly, and quietly toward your rally point. Forget GPS, it's gone. That laminated street map and the compass you hopefully tucked into your bag, they're now priceless. Stick to secondary roads and alleys. Avoid major arteries where chaos brews first. When you get home, time is now your currency. You have maybe 12 hours before refrigeration fails, water pressure drops, and people start asking the wrong questions. Begin with a full circuit shutdown. Flip every breaker off to shield your home from potential voltage surges if lines reboot or spike sporadically. Assign roles immediately. This isn't a one-person show. One adult takes inventory of perishables. What needs eating now? What can stretch a few days? Another insulates the freezer, wrapping it in thick blankets or quilts to preserve internal cold. A third starts water capture immediately, filling bathtubs, sinks, any container with a seal. Don't overlook the hot water tank. It's often an unnoticed 30 to 50 gallon reserve. Treat this phase like a battlefield triage. Not everything can be saved, but critical supplies must be stabilized before outside chaos creeps in. Most importantly, stay focused. It's easy to fall into debate. Who attacked? Why? How big? But speculation burns mental fuel you can't spare. Leadership in crisis isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating momentum when others freeze. In that first post-EMP sunrise, survival doesn't reward the curious, it rewards the prepared. By the second day, water stops being just a utility and becomes your most precious currency. Not because it's rare, rain still falls, lakes still exist, but because access becomes brutally limited, and clean water is no longer a convenience, it's a full-time responsibility. Once the local water towers empty, and they will, often within 48 hours of pump failure, Every tap in your home will run dry or sputter with contaminated remnants. That's when reality sets in. Without power, water no longer flows. Your minimum goal is 2 gallons per person per day. That's just to cover drinking, cooking, and minimal hygiene, nothing extravagant. Think of it like this. If you've got a family of 4, you're looking at 56 gallons per week. That's a full drum gone in 7 days with no refills unless you're ready. What you captured right after the EMP buys you breathing room, but not for long. You need to pivot fast to collection and purification strategies that can scale, especially if the grid stays down for weeks or months. If you're in a suburban or rural area and fallout isn't in play, rainwater harvesting is a practical start. Redirect roof runoff into a trash can or food-grade barrel. Just make sure to let sediment settle overnight before drawing from the top. A simple window screen over the barrel opening keeps out leaves and mosquitoes, and you can add a few drops of unscented bleach as a first safeguard. If you're on land with a well, there's good news. That source isn't gone, just dormant. With electricity out, your electric pump won't run, but you can build or buy a manual well bucket. Picture a narrow PVC pipe capped at the bottom with a one-way check valve that you lower by rope and pull back full. It's slow, but it works, and it's immune to power loss. Surface water, ponds, streams, even slow-moving creeks can be valuable, but only if treated with care. Start by pre-filtering through cotton cloth to get rid of sediment and algae. Then run it through a gravity-fed system made from 2 stacked 5-gallon buckets, the upper one fitted with ceramic candle filters. These filters last for thousands of liters and remove most bacteria and protozoa, but viruses require a chemical follow-up. 5 drops of 2% iodine per quart of filtered water, or use chlorine bleach if you've stockpiled it. Boiling should be your last resort. It's effective, yes, but it consumes fuel you can't easily replenish. Firewood, propane, alcohol stoves, all of it becomes finite, so conserve whenever possible. And here's a critical tip. Assign someone the role of water warden. This isn't about micromanaging, it's about staying alive. That person monitors daily use, tracks storage levels, and ensures everyone understands the new reality. Dehydration is subtle. It doesn't hit you all at once, it creeps up while you're busy hauling buckets, cooking over coals, or hiking for supplies. Without close monitoring, people, especially children and the elderly, can go from fine to faint in just hours. Water discipline isn't paranoia, it's survival. Light, heat, and cooking aren't luxuries, they're life support, and managing them wisely can mean the difference between stable living and cascading failure. The goal is not just to stay warm or see at night, it's to do it without risk, without waste, and without relying on a fuel you can't replenish. Let's start with light. During the day, leverage natural resources. Those homemade sun tubes, cut 2-liter plastic bottles filled with water and a touch of bleach to prevent algae growth are surprisingly effective. Mounted through the roof of a shed, garage, or even an attic space, they refract and scatter sunlight into usable ambient light indoors, giving you a steady 50 to 60 lumens with zero electricity. It's a daylight hack straight out of disaster zones that works anywhere the sun shines. After dark, your lighting strategy needs redundancy. Solar rechargeable LED lanterns should be your workhorses, used for kitchen, bathroom, and group tasks. Flashlights powered by 18650 lithium cells, especially models with high lumen burst modes, are essential for detail work and emergencies. Keep those charged via small solar panels you stored in a makeshift Faraday cage, a galvanized steel trash can lined with cardboard to isolate metal-on-metal contact. Don't remove them until you're sure the EMP event isn't repeating. Multiple pulses aren't common, but they're not unheard of. Add morale lighting too. Beeswax candles not only offer a soft, comforting glow that eases stress, they burn cleaner and longer than paraffin, and they store indefinitely. But keep all flame sources isolated and never leave them unattended. An open flame in a grid-down environment is not ambiance. It's a hazard with no fire department to call. Cooking is where risk really spikes, especially when cold, hunger, and improvisation collide. A dual-fuel stove using isobutane or propane is ideal for controlled cooking indoors if you've got ventilation. But limit use to quick, fuel-efficient meals, freeze-dried portions, instant oats, or reheated stews. Save longer boiling or simmering for outdoor setups. That's where a rocket mass stove comes in. With a handful of dry twigs and clever insulation, using clay or even mud to trap heat, you can boil a gallon of water in under 10 minutes while producing almost no smoke. The low signature matters because the longer the outage lasts, the more attractive your cooking smell becomes to others. In cold climates, a cast iron wood stove becomes your MVP. It heats, cooks, and dries clothes, but burns through firewood fast, so ration with intent. Stack kindling and logs by size and priority. During warmer months, transition to solar ovens. A reflective panel cooker made from mylar blankets, foil, or even a windshield shade can reach over 250 degrees, enough to pasteurize water or bake small batches of bread. They're silent, smokeless, and free to operate. Just set it and forget it under clear skies. One rule is non-negotiable. Never burn charcoal indoors. It releases carbon monoxide even if you can't smell it. And in a sealed space, one small grill session can turn a quiet evening into a silent tragedy. Finally, organize your energy gear smartly. Use labeled totes, one for lighting, one for fuel and stoves, one for cookware. Don't rely on memory in a crisis. When stress spikes, your brain will crave order. This system lets anyone, whether it's your spouse, a neighbor, or a teen who just snapped out of panic, open a box, find the right gear, and act. Survival in a powerless world isn't just about having tools. It's about designing a system where the right decision is the easiest one to make. Your food plan after an EMP isn't about culinary creativity. It's about survival math, timing, and smart rationing under pressure. The first 48 hours are a race against decay. Fridge contents go first, not just because they spoil fastest, but because wasting those calories would be criminal in a crisis. Milk, cheese, yogurt, any leftovers, consume them while they're still cold. Turn meals communal to boost morale and stretch resources. If your freezer's still holding below 30 degrees, that's precious time. As temperatures rise, prioritize meats and dense proteins. A thawing turkey or roast can become more than dinner. It can anchor a neighborhood cookout, and that shared meal can forge trust faster than any speech or plea for order. People bond over food, especially when fear is thick in the air. Once fresh and frozen goods are gone, you enter the endurance phase. This is where your dry stores carry the load. Rice, oats, lentils, peanut butter, powdered milk, flour. These staples, properly portioned, deliver complete nutrition and shelf-stable security. Target 2,200 calories per adult per day, and don't guess, use measuring cups and tally sheets. In a world where supply chains are silent, every ounce matters. Spice and oil, while not essential, become morale multipliers. A spoonful of salt or dash of garlic powder turns a survival meal into something human again. But no dry stockpile lasts forever. That's why the true long game begins with soil. Start a survival garden within the first week, not for luxury, but for resilience. Choose crops that grow fast, tolerate rough conditions, and yield repeat harvests: bush beans, collards, summer squash, sweet potatoes. Use raised beds if possible. They warm faster, drain better, and reduce pests. Even a few 5-gallon buckets of dirt on a sunny porch can support greens. If your solar gear survived or you've built a crank-powered generator, use low-voltage grow lights to boost germination indoors, especially in northern climates or shaded lots. A packet of seeds today is 6 weeks of calories in your future. But as food increases, so does waste, and sanitation must keep pace or you'll swap hunger for disease. A long-drop latrine is a non-negotiable. Place it at least 200 feet from any water source or home. Dig it 1 shovel wide and 2 deep, cover it with a plank or scrap door, and add a sprinkle of wood ash or garden lime after each use. That controls odor, discourages flies, and neutralizes pathogens. Never skip this. Dysentery is merciless. Gray water, dishwater, veggie rinse, soap runoff should be reused, not dumped. Channel it into compost trenches. Dig a shallow ditch, layer in food scraps, dry leaves, and pour water over the top. Covered with soil and managed properly, it breaks down into rich fertilizer while creating heat and repelling rodents. But none of this works without hygiene discipline. Build a hand washing station from a 5-gallon jug suspended above a catch basin, fitted with a foot pump or spigot. Tie a bar of soap to the jug handle with a shoelace so it never hits the ground. Make it routine. Before meals, after bathroom trips, when coming in from the garden. 2 full minutes. Not a quick rinse, but a scrub under fingernails, between fingers, up to the wrists. Do it like it's a ritual, because it is. In a grid-down world, antibiotics are rare, but clean hands are free and save more lives than any pill ever could. Security isn't about bravado or paranoia. It's about maintaining control of your environment when order fractures. The moment people realize the grid isn't coming back anytime soon, desperation will begin to creep into even the quietest neighborhoods. And when people are desperate, your supplies stop being yours unless you make them defensible. Start with what predators see, your exterior. Motion sensor solar lights mounted high under the eaves not only illuminate activity, they send a subtle message. This home is awake, alert, and maintained. Thorny shrubs like hawthorn or pyracantha planted under ground floor windows turn casual prowling into a painful mistake. And a single well-placed sign, "Neighborhood Watch, armed and trained," isn't a bluff, it's a deterrent. But don't go overboard. Too many signs, too much bravado, and you become a magnet for challenges. You want to look ready, not reckless. Layer your defense. At dusk and dawn, the 2 most vulnerable times of day, rotate patrols through your perimeter. No lone heroes, always in pairs. Carry GMRS radios stored in Faraday bags along with a foldable 20-watt solar panel for recharging. That's your lifeline when cell towers go dark. Use established call signs, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and brevity codes that keep transmissions tight and professional. You're not playing soldier. You're modeling discipline, which inspires calm in others. If firearms are legal where you live, stage them with care. Store them chamber empty, action open, and secured in locations where you can reach them fast, but curious hands cannot. This isn't just about threat response, it's about optics. The more responsibly you handle weapons, the less likely you are to escalate a conflict that could have been diffused. But know this, your greatest weapon isn't a rifle, it's trust. That's where nonviolent security comes in. Build a barter board, a dry erase board, or large poster where neighbors can list what they offer and what they need. It's simple. Mark, mechanic. Needs, Tope A batteries. Carla, retired nurse. Needs, vinegar, Band-Aids. This board becomes the nerve center of your microeconomy, and every trade made is a conflict prevented. People are far less likely to steal from those they depend on. Once cooperation begins, reinforce it. Hold weekly check-ins where adults share updates on weather, water levels, or local observations. Keep them short, focused, and purpose-driven. That builds rhythm. That builds culture. External communication matters too, especially when isolation sets in. A crank-powered shortwave radio can be a sanity line and a source of hard data. Tune to WWV on 5,000 kHz to verify if national time signals are still broadcasting. If they're gone, that's your clue the EMP covered a continent. Scan the 40 and 80 meter amateur bands at dawn and dusk. Those hours carry signals farthest. You'll hear hobbyists, survival nets, even maritime traffic if you're near a coast. Jot down call signs and locations. Over time, you'll map a shadow network of information. Memorize the NATO phonetic alphabet. Not for flair, but for clarity. When you're trying to say grid down at bridge, and the signal's full of static saying Golf Romeo India Delta, might be the difference between understood and missed. But here's the truth. Gear alone doesn't give you communication. Tone does. Calm does. When you speak to your family, your group, or strangers passing through, Be the voice that's steady, measured, and rooted in facts. When panic rises, people listen to the first voice that sounds like it knows what it's doing. Make sure that voice is yours. Surviving month after month without grid power isn't about bunker isolation. It's about weaving microgrids of competence. A neighbor's hand-pumped well, your spare solar array, another family's flock of hens. Together they form a patchwork resilience no single household could match. History shows that deliberate collaboration turns blackouts into footnotes instead of tombstones. The geopolitical tremors we opened with, mines in Hormuz, artillery in Donbas, emergency orders in Atlanta, may keep rolling for years. You can't predict where the next fault line opens, but you can decide right now to be the steady voice who has water filtered, rice cooking, batteries charging, and a plan to teach the skill, not hoard the secret. That mindset travels further than any bug-out bag. If this breakdown made living off-grid feel a little less impossible, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive.